Hey, deserving listeners, Darcey and Stacey, season 4. Why did I say it like that? I don't know. Let's watch.
I know Darcey has a little bit of fear of dating right now based on everything that's happened recently. Darcey keeps dating these men who she needs to support, and I would love to see her with somebody who's going to lift her up and be her partner instead of her baby.
So is that the narrative, that she's always dating people that she needs to support, meaning that they're not rich? And so is that what this season is going to be, her dating rich guys, as if somehow that's going to solve the problem?
She needs a partner, not a baby.
You got to put yourself out there. Georgie wasn't meant for you. You know, he treated you like... Don't be sad. You'll find the right guy. It'll just come when you least expect it. You know, look at me and Florian. Been together almost 8 years.
Yeah. So it's nice that Stacey is trying to be nice. She doesn't want to see her beloved twin sister be sad. So she's like, don't be sad. You know, you'll meet someone. It'll come around. This is what people do. And it's a pitfall of therapists, actually. It's just one of the things that we have to, I want to say beat out of therapists, but that's a terrible phrase. We have to disabuse. That's a weird, somehow I feel like that word fits. We have to deprogram therapists when I'm training them to fall into this pitfall where they are saying, they're trying to reassure. You know, right now, Darcey is very rationally sad and maybe rationally hopeless, rationally demoralized. She's reviewing the past 3 relationships, at the very least, Georgie and Tom and Jesse, and God knows how many before that, her ex-husband, this kind of thing. We know at least there's one more. And so she's like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel good. Instead of being with her, it's trying to reassure her, no, everything's going to work out. Everything's going to be fine. Darcey, in all likelihood in this moment, is like, how do you know everything's going to be fine? Like, so 1, what? 2, hey, I'm sad right now. Can we just be with my sadness? Is that okay with you that I'm sad and hopeless? Is that okay? Is it okay with you that I'm acknowledging the difficulty of my life right now? I'm X amount of years old. I've had X amount of relationships that have gone X amount of bad for me, and you're just telling me that everything's going to be fine? Like, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for being there for me. So as a therapist, we have to not do that, obviously, and be with people. Sometimes that's the most therapeutic, helpful thing. Sometimes it's the most helpful thing to help someone not be hopeless anymore, is to be with someone with their hopelessness and to say, yeah, I get it. You know, you feel hopeless. It sucks. Tell me more. How are you feeling? Do you want to cry? I'm okay. You know, I feel sad for you. I'm with you. And then from there, someone can... Research shows actually that when we cry, we feel happier. So, you know, that's a notion that is not well understood. It's, people think of the opposite. Like, well, if you're going to think about the negative, it's just going to make you worse. No. When people are allowed to feel their feelings, and particularly when they're supported, then the feeling resolves often, you know, not always, of course, it's complicated, but if they were just to be with her in this moment, then maybe at the very least, you'd be a good human being. So when you have friends that are like this, avoid just reassuring them. Everything's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. Everything, you know, maybe that'll help. You know, every situation is different, but at the very least, even if you think that is the right thing to do, begin initially with being with someone. Sometimes that's all anyone wants.
The past few years, Darcey's relationships have had a lot of ups and downs. I've been there through it all, and it's, you know, it's tough to watch sometimes. I feel like she has a tendency to pick men that are toxic for her. I just want her to find her true love like how me and Florian have.
Yeah, I can't really put my finger on what's going on with their dynamic, because it often looks, and I think Darcey is thinking this right now, it often looks like Stacey feels superior to Darcey or needs to be superior to Darcey or highlights these kinds of things. And then by extension, maybe Stacey even engineers this, manipulates the situation consciously or unconsciously to make it so that she always is superior and able to hold that over her sister. That, you know, Stacey seems to have, and we've talked about this before, that Stacey seems more the overfunctioner Darcey's more the underfunctioner. We even saw evidence about it in this, just the beginning of this first episode that I didn't comment on. Darcey takes more risks, for example, and Stacey seems to be the one to be like, no, let's be safe. Let's be safe. That's often an overfunctioner, codependent person kind of thing. So why would that be? Well, one speculation I can't know, of course, but when you feel horrible about yourself, you will resort to a lot of things to try to not feel horrible, right? And one of the things that we all do, it's well understood, is that we will compare ourselves to people that we believe are doing worse than us, and we will feel better by comparison. We will either watch reality TV and see, oh my God, look what a train wreck their lives are. I feel better by comparison. Or your twin sister. You might even kind of need your twin sister or your family member to always be doing worse off than you are, because then by comparison, you're great and you don't have to think about the problems that you have. But another thing that I'm reminded of is this notion, this narrative that these past men were quote unquote toxic or abusive or something. And that Darcey just somehow chooses the toxic, abusive people to date, and that's the problem. So she just needs to choose someone that is not toxic in the future. And certainly that can happen. Individuals can choose people who are quote unquote toxic. They have a tendency to do that for a variety of reasons. But I would not, at least what we saw on camera, I would not call Georgie toxic or abusive. I would call Darcey and Stacey toxic and abusive. Tom, I would not call Tom abusive. The relationship had its sort of confusing elements. Did he cheat or were they on a break? But, so I wouldn't, but Tom did say some nasty things that one time. So there were elements, but Georgie never exhibited that on camera, or very rarely anyway. Jesse, on the other hand, yeah, there were some issues there. Right from the get-go, Jesse was talking down to Darcey and berating her and all sorts of things. So, and very emotionally abusive, well, not very emotional, mostly toxic. Toxic isn't a clinical word really anyway, but I think it applies to Jesse, the cutting on the bias, that whole flip out in front of the kids. It was, notable. So Jesse, sure, but Tom and particularly Georgie, no. So again, it just completely denies the opportunity for Darcey to be like, okay, well, because if Darcey's like, okay, lesson learned, don't choose a toxic person, that, she starts to date someone and there's no evidence that the person is quote unquote toxic. And Darcey's like, problem solved. That the problem is not solved at that point. Darcey has all of her relational traumas and her schemas and her tendencies. The other person could have all sorts of other issues, you know what I mean? So it's just, I don't know. I'm reminded of how hard it is to watch this show. I'm 12 minutes into this episode and I'm already like, I remember how frustrating it was to watch the individuals on this show, at least what they're presenting to us, just have no path forward in terms of fixing the problems they desperately want to fix. I think for Darcey, having a companion, having attachment security, of course, as it is for all of us, most of us, is a huge thing that she wants. Maybe she's never had in her life. This is a big deal. So this isn't just some random thing like, oh, I want to be a star. This is fundamental need we're talking about for her. And for me, watching, seemingly seeing no evidence that she's going to be able to meet that need and that I'm going to watch that process, I'm reminded of how hard that is.
Are you freaking kidding me right now? I'm not a doll. You don't have to say you're going to do my makeup. I do my own makeup. I didn't mean it like that. Anyway. My little baby.
Let's do our makeup together.
Not my mommy. I never said I was. I just don't like, you making me feel less than,
Less than?
Yep. Not a third wheel, not your little baby. Okay, so relax.
Okay, so it's hard to know if this is manufactured and fabricated or real, but if we're just going to use this as a jumping off point, if this was real, then this could be an expression of what I was talking about earlier with Darcey, feeling like for Stacey, she always needs to feel superior in order to feel good about herself. And so Darcey in this moment is sensitive to that or was hurt by something previous around this. and is bringing it up now and trying to express that in a way that is hostile and off-putting, right? So if we use this as a jumping off point, you can think for yourself, how could Darcey communicate that, if that were true, to Stacey without doing this? Because what Darcey's doing here is being hostile and off-putting and dismissive, no eye contact, no vulnerability, no acknowledgement that Stacey is a good person or trying to be a good person. It's all like, negative and angry. And you can have anger, that's great, but if you're actually trying to change your relationship, you want to present the material to the other individual so that they won't get defensive as much anyway, and it'll give them an opportunity to rise to the occasion. So Darcey could say something like, hey, Stacey, I just want to tell you that I know that you love me, I know you care, you're a good sister, and I feel like sometimes you look down on me. There are certain things that you say. I don't know if you do or not. I'm probably sensitive to it. It's probably an issue of mine, at least in part, if not entirely. I don't know. But I just get this impression like sometimes you say things sometimes that indicate that you don't think I'm a good person, or you think I'm stupid or a failure, and maybe that you're doing better than me. I'm guessing also that I'm just sensitive because I think you actually are doing better than me, because you've been with Florian for 5-6 years now or something, and I keep trying and things aren't going well for me. So I don't know. I just feel hurt sometimes, and I know you're not meaning it on purpose, but sometimes it does hurt. So I just wanted you to know that. It gives Stacey an opportunity to rise to the occasion and say, oh my God, yeah, well, maybe. So if Stacey were to be self-aware and differentiated, initially, I'm guessing Stacey would be like, what? No. But then check in. Whenever anyone gives you feedback, a little feedback to y'all, unsolicited feedback to y'all, when someone, particularly your partner or your twin sister, has a criticism of you, has a message that they're trying to get across, almost all the time, that message has at least some, if not the entirety of it is accurate and rational. People avoid telling their close people about their feelings. We almost never tell our partners about our complaints about them or how they hurt our feelings. We almost never do that. So when your partner finally tells you something, know that there are many other instances that they're not mentioning and many other things they're not mentioning. This is just the thing that is rising above all the other things to push the individual to actually tell you. So listen, you can be defensive in your head. You could be defensive later on, but just take the time to be like, okay, what am I hearing from this person right now? This is important. Think about it like if you've ever given like a recital, right? It's the big day and everyone's arriving and you're playing piano. It's the big day, or you're playing football and it's game day, it's game Sunday, and you've got to show up. This is no longer practice. Or, I don't know, some kind of thing where it's the real deal. You've been practicing a long time. When your partner finally tells you something, or your twin sister finally tells you something, it's game day. It's important. This is what you've been practicing for. This is what life is all about. And a lot will be established today, because right now is, I don't want to say do or die, but a lot gets established in this moment. When your partner finally tells you something, a lot of lessons will be learned by everybody. And if you are dismissive or defensive or hostile or whatever, then that sets a precedent for your loved one that will carry through into the future, such that they will be affected by that. So if you rise to the occasion, at the very least listen. You're just like, okay, so what I'm hearing is it's important to bring forth your most differentiated, mature, strongest self. You really have to, okay, it's game day. Let's really make this happen. I can't just be lazy, or I can't rely on my knee-jerk reaction in this moment. I've got to really be careful here. It's important, when you're giving a recital. I can't, my phone just went off. Obviously you, or I don't know, there's a distraction. I don't have time for that right now. Right now, it all comes down to me performing. It's a thing like that, it's important. So make sure you do it right, because when you do it right, your partner will trust you more. It gives you an opportunity to really grow as a person, as a relationship. And your partner's more likely to tell you the small things, and then you can address the smaller things as you go, instead of giving the message to your partner that it's just like, it'll always go bad. And then when that happens, and this is the state of a lot of people, I would say the majority of people are in this state where they're like, well, I have this issue with my partner, but you know what? If I bring it up, it'll just be a big fight. So it's just easier to not say anything. If you are in that state, that is 100% dysfunctional. That's normal, but dysfunctional, because eventually something's got to give. Something has to happen, because you either have to eventually say something, and when you finally do say something, it'll be like so much has built up around it. It'll be this mountain of information and issues that have been piling up over time. Also, when you actually do bring stuff up to your partner and you don't trust a positive response, you're already pre-defensive. You might say things to your partner just like, so I'm going to tell you something. I know you're going to get defensive because you always want to fight with me. And then you're already defensive before they even say anything, which is hostile to the other person, which causes them to be defensive. Now they're trying to defend themselves about not being defensive while being defensive at the same time. But also for all those things that pile up over time, it's got to go somewhere. It'll go into passive aggression, which is to give the silent treatment, or to cheat on your partner, or to passive aggressively get back at them through other kinds of means. Or you will become depressed or anxious, or your sex life will, in partnerships, romantic partnerships, your sex life will just completely disintegrate. Or you will just avoid the other person. You'll grow apart and get divorced. Like, there's a lot at stake. When your person finally tells you something, a lot is at stake.
Excuse me? We don't treat you like a baby. Flory and I love being around you, but when you're acting like this...
Flory and Stacey.
Oh, stop it, Darcey.
Today's about me.
Wow.
Today's about me. And you know what I think about sarcasm. If you're ever being sarcastic, and sarcasm is a pretty broad category, but it is a sure sign that if you are being sarcastic, you have entered into, in all likelihood, a very dysfunctional, harmful, hostile place. So it's a marker, right? It's like, oh, and sometimes I'll do that myself, or I'll have an impulse, or I'll actually do something sarcastic, and I'll be like, oh, I've crossed some sort of line where this, but if you don't notice it, you'll just lean into it like, well, this is normal. This is the way you communicate. This is how you express these kinds of things. 99% of the time, when you're being sarcastic, you're actually trying to communicate something that's normal. I don't know, but Darcey could be trying to communicate a normal, rational thing of, I feel like you look down on me, or you hurt my feelings sometimes. Okay, you can say that, Darcey, but to be sarcastic in this moment, it doesn't come across that way, right? It just comes across as putting down. You're putting Stacey down in the effort of trying to get her to stop putting you down.
Wow, you're nasty. Get your attitude out your ass. You're gonna push guys away like that.
Well, and who knows? This could be all fabricated, but Stacey really knows how to go for the jugular with that. I don't know, but I'm guessing that the two of them understand for Stacey to say something like that, that's a low blow.
Stacey saying that I'm gonna push guys away like that, it's hurtful. She knows I'm single, and she knows I'm feeling a little vulnerable in the moment. And she knows this is an important day for me as well. But instead of Stacey encouraging me, I feel like she's making me feel like there's something wrong with me, who I am as a person.
But again, Darcey is not taking ownership or acknowledging what she did. I mean, if you just watch the fight, Darcey just started off by being really unfair and hostile and accusatory and kind of cryptic in the beginning. And so Darcey is like, it's all Stacey's fault and I didn't do anything wrong.
Now, going through a lot, and she needs to understand that. Honestly, we're both in the wrong here. And I feel really bad about taking jabs. It's not helping anything, but I'll do whatever it takes to move past this.
Yeah, that's great that Stacey could be differentiated enough to identify that she was in the wrong. She's saying we're both in the wrong, saying that she's in the wrong herself, which is a good place to start from. a good assumption to have, and it sounds like she recognizes what she was doing was taking jabs. All right, well, that is it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.